Hello, my name is Kamada Mulaba, and I'm going to discuss the IEP process to a parent or guardian. First, I'm going to start with the active role of a parent in the IEP process. So parents are active members and legally part of the IEP team. They provide great insights and their role is very important. A parent knows their child best better than anyone in the room. They can provide background information on the child. They can tell us things that we might not notice at school. They can make recommendations, and they can also advocate for their child. So parent involvement is very crucial to being part of the IEP team, as well as the students. Students over 15 are required to participate in IEP meetings and be part of the team as well. Students can advocate for themselves or can give more insight into their needs, especially in transitional meetings. And next thing I'm going to talk about is referrals. So referrals work in a way where a parent can make a referral for their student to be evaluated, as well as a team member at the school called the SST. So you can get a referral from the SST, or a parent can actually make a referral if they notice that or suspect that their child might have a disability. And this is called a child find. Once a referral is made for a student to be a student that is suspected of having a disability, then the student will be evaluated. So first, the student has to be sent a consent of evaluation home, and the parent has to sign the consent of evaluation. Once the consent of evaluation is signed, then the student can begin the evaluation process. And when the students get evaluated, they might be evaluated through observations, assessments, psychological testing, and a lot of information to determine if the student does have a disability or is eligible to receive special education. The different team members that are involved in that process are the psychologist, the special education teacher, the general education teacher, and some other team members that are vital parts of the evaluation process. Could include the speech or OT or physical therapy teacher or personnel. Also, once the student is evaluated and testing scores such as IQ, they have different types of testing such as KTA, WISC. Once the scores the results have been evaluated, and it is determined that, okay, the students, scored average, the students scored low in average or high in average, then we will have an eligibility meeting as a team to determine whether the student does qualify for special education and what disability they're eligible to qualify under, ranging from ASD, STD, SLD, even speech only. So a eligibility meeting is held. The parent is informed of the meeting, and the parent is attending the meeting as an active team member, along with the psychologist, along with the general education teacher, and other team members that are involved. So during the meeting for the eligibility, a lot of factors are considered. The psychologist runs the meeting for the most part because they are discussing all the psychological finds that they found after doing the testing, and they're discussing scores on assessments, results from observations, and making a team decision with everyone in the room to see what category the student qualifies for to be in special education. The parent has to sign off. The parent can't object. The parent can advocate, and then another meeting will be held to determine eligibility. So once the eligibility is determined and the student does qualify for special education, then the student will need an IEP, an individualized education program. So The IEP now will consist of a special education teacher because now the student has qualified to receive special education. So that's where the special education teacher comes in. Still working closely with psychologists or any testing results or anyone partaking in that arena to create appropriate goals for the student, to make sure the student is receiving the right support as far as behaviorally, if they might need a behavior plan, a behavior intervention plan. So the IEP has different components where you have goals for the student. That's one of the main components of the IEP. What goals are the students gonna try to achieve in the one legal year that the IEP is legal for? You also have other components such as what services the students is gonna receive. Are they gonna receive the least restricted services, meaning are they going to meet in a general education classroom to receive their services? Are they going to be pulled out of the classroom sometimes to receive a small group kind of resource service? Are they going to be in a more restrictive setting like a self-contained classroom? And if they are going to a self-contained classroom, how restrictive is it? Is it going to be very restrictive, or are they still going to be learning what general education teachers are learning, but just more general education students are learning, but just in a more restrictive environment? So all that is determined based on the needs of the student and what the eligibility was, and the assessments, evaluations, testing, that will determine the least restrictive setting which is required for the student. Another part of the IEP process is determined the student might need extended school year, and just giving a basic background information of the students, discussing their strengths, their weaknesses, and how their disability impacts them receiving general education. So once that is done, the IEP meeting is held. If everyone agrees on what is being discussed, then the parents say yes, the meeting is signed off on, and that is a legal binding document for 1 full year. And you can always reconvene to adjust it if the student's making progress on their goals, if the student is needs more support. You can always have an amendment or have another meeting. But once the IEP is signed by everyone in the room, the general education teacher, the special education teacher, the parents, and psychologist doesn't necessarily have to be in the IEP meeting. The psychologist is more part of the eligibility process. But all the team members in the room sign off. Then that's a legal document. Now we have to execute the goals on there. Now we have to provide the services on there for the students and keep the parents updated through progress reports, through progress monitoring on how successful the student is being, if the student needs any more support, if the student needs any changes. We keep the parents constantly updated. So thank you so much. Bye.